You say you're fine. Someone asks how you're doing. You nod. You shrug slightly. Yeah, I'm good. And technically, nothing is on fire. Work is handled, bills are paid, you're functioning. But inside, it feels heavier than that. You don't complain, you don't explain, you don't dramatize. You just manage it. And here's the strange part. The more you say you're fine, the less anyone thinks to look deeper. So let's talk about it. Because being fine isn't always what it looks like. And for a lot of men, it's not indifference. It's adaptation. You're not broken. You're not emotionally unavailable. Your brain is doing something very specific. It learned that stability mattered more than expression. For some men, that lesson started early. Maybe you were the calm one in chaos. Maybe you were the reliable one when things were unstable. Maybe someone needed you steady, so you became steady. And somewhere along the way, fine became safer than honest. The brain loves safety. It prefers predictability over vulnerability. When you say you're fine, you reduce friction. No extra conversation, no emotional unpredictability, no risk of being misunderstood. It keeps things moving. And if you grew up in an environment where emotional intensity led to conflict, criticism, or dismissal, your nervous system learned quickly. Stay composed, stay contained, stay fine. This isn't weakness, it's regulation. Your brain equates emotional exposure with potential threat, so it keeps the volume low. You function well, you don't fall apart, you stay in control. Control feels stable, and stability feels necessary. But here's the part nobody tells you. Over time, fine stops being a response. It becomes an identity. You're the strong one, the dependable one, the calm one, the one who doesn't need much. And that identity gets reinforced. People trust you. They rely on you. They see you as solid. But solidity has a cost, because when you're always the foundation, no one checks if the foundation is cracking. Another layer sits beneath this, identity protection. If you've built your sense of self around competence and resilience, vulnerability feels like contradiction. If you admit you're not fine, who are you then? For many men, being needed feels purposeful. Being steady feels valuable. Being low maintenance feels respectable. So you minimize what you feel, not because it isn't there, but because it doesn't fit the identity. And here's where it gets interesting. The same behavior that once protected you now isolates you. You're not disconnected, you're contained. You're not cold, you're careful. You learned to process internally. But internal processing has limits. Humans regulate best in connection. Yet, if you've trained yourself to self-contain, connection feels unnecessary or risky. So you default to fine. You avoid burdening others. You avoid appearing dramatic. You avoid being misread. But here's something subtle. When someone consistently says they're fine, others stop asking. And when others stop asking, it confirms the belief. I don't need to share. The loop strengthens. Over time, this can create a strange emotional experience. You're strong, but tired. Capable, but slightly detached. Functional, but quietly heavy. And because nothing is catastrophically wrong, you convince yourself it doesn't count. This is common among men who grew up early. When responsibility comes before emotional guidance, you learn to solve before you learn to feel. You manage logistics, you manage outcomes, you manage expectations, but no one teaches you how to manage internal weight. So you store it, you carry it, you call it fine. As life stages shift, this behavior evolves. In your 20s, it looks like independence. In your 30s, it looks like leadership. In your 40s and beyond, it looks like quiet endurance. Same pattern, different interpretation. The brain hasn't changed its strategy. It's still choosing predictability over exposure, still choosing structure over emotional uncertainty, still choosing armor. And armor isn't bad. Armor is intelligent. It kept you safe. It made you reliable. It built your competence. But armor worn constantly becomes heavy. The behavior regulates emotion. It restores control. It reduces mental noise. It creates a familiar internal room where nothing spirals. Fine becomes a familiar space, and controlled environment, an anchor. And anchors are useful. They keep ships steady in storms, but ships are not meant to stay anchored forever. Here's the gentle truth. You're not emotionally deficient, you're emotionally disciplined. You're not distant, you're regulated. You adopted, and adaptation deserves respect. But adaptation isn't the same as fullness. The goal isn't to remove strength. It isn't to replace steadiness. It isn't to turn you into someone dramatic. It's simply to recognize what fine has been doing for you. It reduced chaos, it preserved dignity, it protected identity, it gave you control. And control felt necessary. So if you've been the man who is always fine, it doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you learned to carry without showing. That's not failure, that's intelligence under pressure. And understanding that doesn't require you to change overnight. It doesn't require you to confess everything. It doesn't require you to dismantle your identity. It just means this. Being fine was a strategy, not your entire self. And when you realize that, you don't lose strength, you gain awareness. And awareness is steady, not dramatic, not chaotic, just clear. You were never broken. You were building structure. Now you simply understand the structure better. And sometimes, that's enough.